Ever built a pillow fort? You've got your blankets, your chairs, maybe a strategic room for structural integrity.
Yeah.
Now imagine that, but 1,000 times more complex. And instead of a grumpy sibling complaining about the lack of windows, you've got actual clients, building codes, and a whole lot of pressure riding on you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of a construction general contractor.
You're not kidding about the pressure. But you've also hit on something key, that sense of creation, of taking a vision and turning it into something real.
Right.
We've got your deep dive request on this one, and it looks like you've been checking out RoleCatcher's resources, which is a great place to start.
Yeah, their Construction General Contractor Career Guide is pretty comprehensive. Plus, they've got those sample interview questions, which are a little intimidating, to be honest. Like, how would you handle a subcontractor missing a deadline? Panic.
That's where that judgment and decision-making skill they keep mentioning comes in.
Oh.
And it's interesting because you might assume this role is all about knowing how to build. But this guide emphasizes that even with all the technology, over 85% of the core knowledge is still about the nuts and bolts of construction itself.
Okay, so you can't just be a spreadsheet wizard. You need to know your way around a construction site.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you've got the management side, the financial side, even legal stuff with contracts and permits.
Right.
It's like being a jack of all trades, but instead of tools, you're juggling different areas of expertise.
And that's where the orchestra conductor analogy comes in, which they use a lot in the guide.
I do love a good analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about someone who can just swing a hammer. We're talking about someone who can conduct an entire symphony of subcontractors, each with their own part to play in the grand performance of erecting a building.
Exactly. And you're responsible for making sure that symphony doesn't descend into chaos.
Oh.
Think about it. You've got architects with their grand designs clients, with their budgets and deadlines, and then all the different subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, drywall installers, all needing to work together seamlessly.
Okay, that's a lot of personalities to manage. I'm starting to see why social perceptiveness is right up there with building and construction knowledge and their skills breakdown. Suddenly, my ability to build a killer Lego model feels woefully inadequate.
Well, maybe hold off on sending that Lego resume just yet.
Yeah.
But you're right. This isn't just about managing tasks. It's about managing people and under pressure.
Right.
That's why they highlight communication as absolutely crucial, not just giving orders, but really understanding different perspectives.
Which makes sense if a conflict arises between a subcontractor and the client. You can't exactly tell them to go build it out and hope for the best.
Right.
You're the one who needs to find solutions and ensure the project stays on track.
Precisely. And they don't sugarcoat the long hours in a high-stress environment in the guide either. Think about it. If there's a delay, a cost overrun, or heaven forbid, a safety issue, you're the one who's ultimately accountable.
Okay, so maybe not for the faint of heart. But there's something about that high-stakes environment that's also kind of alluring.
Yeah.
Sort of like, yeah, this job is tough, but someone's got to do it, and that someone is going to be ME, the one who brings order to the chaos and a building to life.
There's definitely a certain personality type drawn to this kind of challenge. And RoleCatcher does a good job outlining the potential rewards too, not just in terms of salary, which we'll get to,
Okay.
but also the satisfaction of seeing a project through from start to finish.
Right, it's like you drive by this amazing skyscraper downtown and you can be like, I was a part of that. My sweat, tears, and maybe a few panic phone calls helped make that happen.
And maybe even started your own firm along the way, which the guide points out is a common trajectory.
Okay, so we've established it's demanding, potentially rewarding, and definitely not your average desk job. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. What does a typical day actually look like for a construction general contractor?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because a typical day can vary wildly depending on where you are in your career. RoleCatcher breaks it down by experience level, from entry level all the way to senior roles,
Okay.
each with its own set of responsibilities and challenges.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. You're fresh out of school. Maybe you aced that Lego architecture course. What does an entry-level construction general contractor actually do?
Picture this. You're on a bustling construction site, hard hat firmly in place, blueprints in hand.
Okay.
But instead of calling the shots, you're taking notes, shadowing seasoned professionals, and probably making a few coffee runs along the way.
Yeah.
Welcome to the life of an entry-level construction general contractor.
So less leading the orchestra and more learning the instruments, right? The guide makes it clear that this stage is all about absorbing knowledge like a sponge.
Absolutely. It's about mastering the fundamentals, learning how to read blueprints like a pro, understanding building codes inside and out, and getting familiar with every stage of the construction process. Think of it as building your own metal toolbox.
And probably getting that toolbox a little dusty in the process. The guide does emphasize the importance of hands-on experience, which makes sense. You can't learn everything from a textbook, right?
Exactly. This is where you're transitioning from theory to practice, applying those classroom concepts to real-world scenarios.
Okay.
You might be assisting with bid proposals, coordinating deliveries, or even just observing how experienced contractors interact with clients and subcontractors.
Speaking of subcontractors, the guide mentions that at this stage you're mostly observing how those relationships work. But as you move up to junior level, you start taking on more direct management responsibilities.
That's right. Think of it as leveling up in a video game. You've gained some experience points, learned a few new skills, and now you're ready for more challenging quests.
And probably facing some tougher bosses, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
They even gave an example of what a junior level resume might look like, and it emphasizes taking on more independent tasks like overseeing smaller teams or managing specific aspects of a project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where you start putting those problem-solving muscles to work. Remember those tricky interview questions we mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah.
This is where those scenarios could become your daily reality.
So you're no longer just fetching coffee, you're the one figuring out how to get the project back on schedule when the caffeine shipment is delayed.
Exactly. You're learning to anticipate challenges, find creative solutions, and communicate effectively with everyone involved.
Okay.
And as you consistently prove yourself capable, you'll eventually find yourself climbing the ladder to the mid-level construction general contractor role.
Okay, so now we're talking about conducting a bigger section of the orchestra, right? What does that shift in responsibility look like?
At the mid-level, you're not just managing tasks, you're managing entire projects from start to finish.
Yeah.
You're leading bid processes, overseeing multiple subcontractors, and acting as the primary liaison between the client and your team.
That sounds like a lot of responsibility. And probably a lot of late nights poring over spreadsheets and blueprints, making sure everything aligns.
You're not wrong. The guide highlights the importance of strong organizational and time management skills at this stage.
Okay.
You're juggling multiple deadlines, budgets, and personalities. So staying organized is crucial.
And I imagine those negotiation skills we talked about earlier are really put to the test at this level.
Yeah.
Whether it's negotiating contracts with subcontractors or managing client expectations, you're constantly finding compromises and solutions that benefit everyone involved.
Precisely. You're the diplomat, the problem solver, and the one who ultimately ensures the project stays on track and within budget. It's a high-pressure role, but also incredibly rewarding when you see your vision come to life.
It's funny, we started by talking about building pillow forts, and now I'm imagining you at the mid-level coordinating the construction of a pillow fort empire.
You're not that far off.
Yeah.
The scale might be different, but the core principles are the same: planning, coordination, communication, and a touch of creativity to bring it all together.
And speaking of scaling things up, the guide also mentions that this mid-level experience is often what prepares you for taking that leap into senior leadership or even starting your own construction firm.
That's right. Consider this the stepping stone to the big leagues.
Okay.
You've proven yourself as a capable project manager, you've honed your leadership skills, and now you're ready for even greater challenges and rewards.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what that senior level role actually entails. What does a typical day look like for someone at the top of their game? All right, we've gone from fetching coffee to calling the shots on major projects. Now I'm picturing you not just leading the orchestra, but owning the entire concert hall. What does it really mean to be a senior level construction general contractor?
Think less about day-to-day construction tasks and more about the big picture. You're not just building buildings anymore, you're building a business, a legacy.
Okay, that sounds intense, but also kind of amazing. The guide mentions things like securing new projects, fostering relationships with clients. These are high-stakes deals, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At this level, you need to be as comfortable in a boardroom as you are on a construction site. You're the face of the company, the one closing those million-dollar deals and ensuring the company's continued growth.
So you're using all those skills you've honed over the years, the technical knowledge, the communication, the negotiation, but now it's on a whole other scale. It's almost like you're playing 3D chess with skyscrapers.
That's a great way to put it. And you're also responsible for mentoring the next generation of construction general contractors, nurturing talent within the company.
So it's not all high-pressure negotiations and power lunches. You're also taking that experience and passing it down, shaping the future of the industry. That's got to be fulfilling.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And speaking of the future, RoleCatcher makes a great point about continuous learning. The construction industry is always evolving new technologies, sustainability practices, the way projects are managed. You have to stay ahead of the curve.
Which is interesting because we've talked about this job being super demanding, high stress, long hours, and now you're telling me the learning never stops. That's not for everyone.
You've got to have a real passion for it, a drive to keep pushing the boundaries. But that's also what makes it so exciting. There's always something new to learn, a new challenge to tackle.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But okay, let's say someone listening is up for the challenge. They've got the drive, the passion, maybe even a killer Lego city on display in their living room. What about the financial side of things? RoleCatcher mentioned a good salary range, but how does that translate into real-world earning potential?
Well, just like in construction itself, building a successful career takes time and careful planning. Starting salaries can vary widely depending on location experience, even the specific type of construction you specialize in.
Right, because a general contractor working on a massive shopping mall project is probably going to earn more than someone renovating bathrooms, right?
Exactly. The scale and complexity of the projects you take on play a big role. And of course, experience is key. The more you have under your belt, the more valuable you become to potential employers or clients.
Makes sense. You're not just bringing your skills to the table. You're bringing all those lessons learned, those triumphs, and maybe a few battle scars from projects past.
And speaking of valuable assets, those certifications RoleCatcher mentioned can really boost your earning potential too. Those credentials demonstrate your commitment to professional development and can give you a competitive edge.
It's like you're not just saying, hey, I'm good at this. You've got the certifications to back it up. The proof is in the paperwork.
Exactly. And it's not just about the formal qualifications either. Developing a niche specializing in a certain type of construction like green building or historical restoration that can make you highly sought after.
So it's like building your own personal brand within the industry. You become known as the go-to person for a specific type of project, which gives you more leverage, potentially higher fees, the works.
Precisely. And let's not forget the entrepreneurial route. Many experienced construction general contractors eventually launch their own firms.
Right. That's the ultimate dream for a lot of folks, being their own boss, building a business on their own terms. Of course, that comes with its own set of risks and challenges, but the potential rewards are huge.
Absolutely. It takes a certain kind of drive, a willingness to put in the extra hours to take those risks. But the payoff, both personally and financially, can be incredibly satisfying.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From the nitty-gritty of blueprints and building codes to the high-stakes world of multi-million-dollar projects and entrepreneurial ventures.
It's been quite a journey. I think we've gone beyond just answering the question, what does a construction general contractor do? We've really explored what it means to be successful in this field, the skills, the mindset, the dedication it takes.
And maybe even inspired a few future construction moguls along the way. But before we wrap up, I'm curious, from your perspective, what's the one thing that really makes a construction general contractor stand out from the crowd?
That's a great question. Beyond all the technical skills and knowledge, I think it comes down to a genuine passion for the craft, a love for the challenge of creating something tangible and enduring.
It's that spark in their eye when they talk about a project, that sense of pride in knowing they're building the future, one brick, one beam, one skyscraper at a time.
Exactly. And the ability to inspire that same passion in others, to lead a team towards a common goal, that's the mark of a truly great construction general contractor.
And on that inspiring note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. We've explored the challenges, the rewards, the sheer scope of this incredible career path. But most importantly, we've given you, dear listener, the tools and insights you need to decide if this is the right path for you.
Remember, it all starts with that first step, that leap of faith. Do your research, explore your options, and never be afraid to ask questions. Who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of building.
And on that note of possibility, we'll sign off for today. This has been The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep building towards your dreams.